You know, that specific, like, suffocating quality of silence you get at 4
Oh,
a.m.
yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It is definitely not a peaceful silence.
Right. It is not the restorative quiet of a deep sleep at all. It is that heavy, oppressive stillness where the rest of the world is blissfully unconscious.
But your brain has suddenly decided to jolt you awake,
Yeah.
to run this, like, hostile, utterly unforgiving audit of every single thing going wrong in your life.
Yes, exactly. The heart is racing, the cortisol is just spiking, and you are just staring at the ceiling, acutely aware of every single failure.
The 4 a.m. audit, I mean, it is such a universal human experience, and psychologically speaking, it is a deeply vulnerable state to be in.
Because you're tired. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The defenses we spend all day building, our routines, the busy work, our social masks, they are just completely stripped away at that hour.
Yeah, that makes sense. The armor is off.
Right. The conscious mind, which usually rationalizes our struggles during the day, is just too tired to fight back.
Mm.
So you are left naked with your absolute rawest anxieties.
And the anxieties are always so loud. I mean, the career isn't where it should be. The bank account looks incredibly grim.
Or the relationships feel strained.
Uh,
Or maybe they are just completely non-existent.
exactly. It is the exact moment when the whole facade completely crumbles. You are looking at the messy, disjointed fragments of your days and thinking, well, why is this so hard?
What am I missing?
Right, what am I missing? And that brings us to the mission of our deep dive today. We are unpacking the manual that answers that exact 4 a.m. demand.
And it is a fascinating one.
It really is. It's a framework extracted from an excerpt of Neale Donald Walsch's Becoming the Source, The Divine Law of Giving. And honestly, it requires a complete, frankly, terrifying rewiring of how you view your own survival.
Terrifying is probably the right word for it, honestly.
Yeah.
Because the origin of this philosophy isn't rooted in some, like, breezy, detached academic theory.
No, not at all.
It was forged in the exact crucible we were just describing. The text paints this very specific, visceral picture. It's a man, half a century old, sitting on his living room couch in the middle of the night, literally crying out.
Just begging for answers.
Yeah, begging the universe for answers because, as he calls it, the whole ball of wax, the finances, the career, the relationships, is experiencing a complete systemic failure.
And he's 50. That's a heavy detail. He has spent 50 years trying to play by the rules, and the rules have just entirely failed him.
Think about the profound exhaustion of that moment. 50 years of pushing a boulder up a hill, only to realize you are on the wrong mountain.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's devastating. He isn't asking for a minor course correction at that point.
No, he wants the foundational truth. He's demanding to know what it fundamentally takes to make human life work.
To shift from that deeply ingrained mindset of panic and friction to, like, an actual state of flow.
Which is why the answer he receives in the text is so disruptive.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't tell him to just work harder.
Right. Or to wake up earlier or network better. None of the usual self-help stuff.
Exactly. It challenges the very core of our modern operating system. It requires abandoning those defensive, hoarding postures we naturally assume when we feel, like we're lacking something.
So the framework starts with a concept that sounds deceivingly simple, but the moment you actually try to apply it, it feels like stepping off a cliff.
It really does.
The text poses this question designed to accelerate your personal evolution. It asks, can you believe the highest thought you ever dared to hold about yourself?
We really need to dissect the specific mechanism of that language there. Notice the exact word Walsch chooses.
The word dared.
Yes, dared. He doesn't ask for the highest thought you ever happened to hold, or, the highest thought you tried to hold. He specifically says dared.
Because daring implies a significant risk. It implies that holding this specific thought about your own potential is somehow dangerous.
Or even forbidden by the environment around you. And from a sociological and psychological standpoint, it actually is incredibly dangerous.
How so? Like, biologically dangerous?
Well, human beings are tribal creatures.
Right.
We are profoundly conditioned by our environment to play small, to fit in, to just be realistic.
Because the tribe relies on predictability.
Precisely. If you suddenly stand up and declare this impossibly grand vision of who you are, you disrupt the social hierarchy. You make people uncomfortable.
We are taught from a very young age to, temper our expectations so we don't face disappointment.
And more importantly, so we don't trigger the insecurities of the people around us.
Oh, that's the tall poppy syndrome, right? The flower that grows higher than the rest just gets its head chopped off.
That's exactly it. So to actually embrace your grandest vision of yourself, I mean, it is a genuinely rebellious act against your own conditioning.
It requires overriding the brain's natural threat detection system, the system that's just screaming at you to blend in and be normal.
Exactly.
Okay, but let's unpack this for a second because there is a very fine, very dangerous line here.
I know where you're going with this.
Right. The text emphasizes that you have to hold this highest thought as your absolute truth. Walsh says you must accept, I'm not making it up, I'm not imagining it, I'm not spinning out here. This is actually what's true about me.
It's a bold claim to make about yourself.
It is. So, functionally, how does that work without a person becoming a complete monster? I mean, if I look in the mirror and tell myself I am the most brilliant, visionary person alive, how am I not just plunging headfirst into toxic narcissism or pure delusion?
This raises an important question, and honestly, it is the most critical distinction in this entire framework. It's where most people fundamentally misunderstand the concept of the highest self.
Oh, what's the difference?
You have to look at the underlying mechanism of the thought itself. Delusion and narcissism are rooted entirely in the ego, right? And the ego operates on a strict zero-sum mechanism.
Okay, meaning what exactly?
It requires contrast to exist, meaning for me to be great, someone else has to be less than me.
Ah, okay. The ego uses grandiosity to create separation.
Exactly. It says, I am the highest, therefore I am elevated above you. You are inferior. Arrogance is a comparative metric. It constantly needs to look down to confirm its own height.
And if someone else climbs to your step on the ladder, the ego feels threatened.
Right, it panics. But the realization of the highest self, at least as Walsh defines it in the text, operates on a completely different psychological engine. It is intrinsically non-comparative.
Because the source text explicitly ties this bold self-belief directly to how you view everyone else.
Yes, Walsh states that when you truly embrace that highest, grandest thought about yourself, only then can you embrace that thought about others as well.
So the ultimate function of embracing your highest self isn't to separate yourself from the crowd at all.
Not at all. It is the necessary prerequisite to recognizing that exact same untapped greatness in the people around you.
Okay, so the acid test for whether you are stepping into your truth or just spinning out into arrogance is entirely dependent on your reaction to other people's brilliance.
Exactly. If your grand thought about yourself makes you look at your coworkers as incompetent or, your neighbors as beneath you, that is ego.
Your software is basically glitching. You are just wearing arrogance as a mask for insecurity.
But if stepping into your highest truth suddenly illuminates the massive, brilliant potential in everyone around you.
If it makes you more empathetic, more collaborative.
Right. If you are suddenly more in awe of human potential, that is the actualization Walsh is pointing toward.
Wow. And this brings up a really fascinating mechanical problem regarding human perception. The text states, only when I see who I am and embrace who I am at the highest level can I possibly see who you are.
It's a hard causal rule. I cannot see you until I see me.
It speaks to the biological, psychological limits of perception, doesn't it? We cannot process data that we don't have the internal hardware to recognize.
Precisely. If you are operating from a baseline of self-deprecation or chronic insecurity or just a minimized version of yourself, the lens through which you view reality is fundamentally warped.
You are projecting your internal environment onto the external world.
Always.
It's like, okay, think about the mechanism of perfect pitch in music.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right. If the neural pathway in your brain for recognizing a perfect pleshik, a note at 440 hertz, simply has not been paved, you literally cannot categorize that sound when you hear it.
You don't have the file for it.
Exactly. You can listen to a world-class symphony, you can stare at the violins playing perfectly, but your brain cannot recognize the perfection of the tuning because you lack the internal reference point. It just sounds like noise.
Until you cultivate that perfect pitch within yourself, everyone else will always sound slightly out of tune.
Yes, that is exactly how our psychological projection works. If you haven't dared to recognize that inherent worth, that perfect pitch within yourself, you will constantly project your own cognitive dissonance onto everyone else.
You'll hyperfixate on their flaws, their limitations, their failures, because that is the frequency your own brain is constantly generating.
You literally cannot see their greatness because, like you said, your brain doesn't have the categorical file for it.
Which means the way we typically try to be a quote-unquote good person is completely backwards.
Oh, absolutely backwards. We try to force ourselves to see the best in others while quietly hating ourselves.
We try to be selfless, but the mechanism is broken. If recognizing my own highest self is a non-negotiable biological prerequisite to recognizing yours, then competition ceases to make logical sense.
It entirely rewrites game theory for human interaction. I mean, in a scarcity mindset, human life is a zero-sum game. My greatness is a direct threat to your greatness.
Because there's only so much pie.
Right, there's only so much pie. But if my ability to recognize and elevate you is entirely dependent on my ability to recognize and elevate myself, our value is deeply intertwined.
It shifts from a competitive zero-sum game to a cooperative, positive-sum game.
My highest self becomes the catalyst for yours. That changes the fundamental dynamics of, well, everything. A marriage, a corporate boardroom, or just how you treat a stranger in traffic.
And that profound shift in dynamics leads us directly to the epiphany at the core of Walsch's 4 a.m. crisis.
Let's get into that.
Right.
Because he is demanding an explanation for why his intense focus on fixing his life is failing.
And the revelation he receives is this brutal paradox. He is told, you think your life is about you and your life has nothing to do with you. It's about everyone whose life you touch and the way in which you touch it.
The camera violently pans out. He was completely obsessed with his career, his bank account, his daily schedule.
And the revelation is that this laser-like, suffocating focus on himself was the exact mechanism causing the failure.
Because desperation creates friction. When you are intensely self-focused, you are constantly evaluating every interaction for what you can extract from it.
How can this person help my career? How can this deal increase my bank account?
People inherently sense when they are being viewed as a means to an end, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. It triggers their own defensive mechanisms. You create an environment of extreme resistance.
It reminds me of a Chinese finger trap. You know, the harder you pull away, trying to yank your finger out to save yourself, the tighter the woven bamboo grips you.
That's a perfect visual for it.
The only way to escape the trap is to push inward, to move in the exact opposite direction of your biological instinct. He was pulling so hard on the universe, screaming, "Give me my money, give me my career," that he completely trapped himself.
And the text offers a massive promise if you can learn to push inward instead. It claims that if you adopt this outward focus, if you accept that your life is about the way you touch others, you will be shocked and amazed by how life's circumstances suddenly come to you without effort.
Okay, so what does this all mean? Because here's where the philosophy sounds beautiful, but the application seems deeply, deeply flawed.
I get that. It's a tough pill to swallow.
It is, because if I am listening to this deep dive while exhausted, struggling to pay off a mountain of debt, and dealing with a career crisis, my biological instinct is telling me to secure my own oxygen mask.
Naturally, you're in survival mode.
Right. So are we saying the solution is to abandon my own goals? Am I supposed to just stop caring about my mortgage and become a selfless martyr, expending whatever tiny bit of energy I have left on everyone else?
Because biologically, that sounds like a recipe for total burnout.
Exactly.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's a completely valid reaction. But it stems from confusing the destination with the vehicle.
Okay. Clarify that for me.
The text is absolutely not advocating for martyrdom. Nowhere does it say you must abandon financial stability or career success or personal fulfillment.
So the goal remains exactly the same.
Yes. What shifts is the mechanism of how you arrive there. The vehicle changes.
Okay, the vehicle change.
Let's look at it through like a macroeconomic lens. The most durable, massively successful businesses in the world rarely achieve that success by simply focusing inward and screaming, we need to hit $1 billion in revenue.
Right. If a company only cares about extracting money from its customers, the market eventually sniffs it out and rejects them.
Exactly. The companies that truly thrive are the ones obsessed with their impact. They identify a profound point of friction or pain that thousands of people are experiencing.
And they focus entirely on becoming the solution to that pain.
Yes. And the revenue is just the natural byproduct of solving the problem. The wealth is a trailing indicator of the value they injected into the ecosystem.
Oh, that makes so much sense. Walsch is taking that macroeconomic reality and applying it to the micro level of individual human existence.
You don't abandon your desire for a thriving career or financial stability. You simply stop trying to extract those things by force.
And instead, focus your energy on injecting value into the lives around you.
Exactly. When you become a massive source of value, the ecosystem naturally reciprocates. That is the effortlessness he's describing in the text. You are no longer swimming upstream against the current of human resistance.
Which brings us from the realm of philosophy into brutal, practical application. The source material doesn't just leave us with a poetic ideal about injecting value, it demands proof.
It really does. It outlines a highly specific 72-hour experiment to physically test this physics of human behavior.
And this is where the framework requires genuine courage from you, the listener. It asks you to confront your deepest areas of perceived scarcity head on.
Let's lay out the exact parameters of the experiment for them.
Okay, step one. Tonight, you make a list of 3 things you desperately wish you had more of in your life right now.
It could be financial breathing room, it could be companionship, it could be clarity on a massive decision, or just basic emotional support.
Right, you list your most painful deficits, things you feel completely empty on.
And then step 2. Tomorrow, you must actively experience being the source of one of those exact things in the life of someone else.
The audacity of the exercise is staggering. I mean, Walsh is targeting the very things you were crying about at 4 a.m., the things your brain is convinced you have entirely run out of, and he is instructing you to give them away.
It's the ultimate paradox.
Here's where it gets really interesting, and where we have to look closely at the logic. If I am profoundly isolated and lonely, to the point where I haven't had a meaningful conversation in weeks.
Or if your bank account is overdrawn and you are terrified of eviction.
Yes, exactly. How is it physically possible to become the source of companionship or wealth for someone else? You cannot transfer funds from an empty account.
That is the logical roadblock that stops almost everyone from attempting the shift. The brain looks at the bank balance, confirms the zero, and just shuts down the process.
Yes, it says, nope, can't do it.
But the mechanism Walsh relies on here is the relativity of need. The text explicitly promises that within 48 to 72 hours, you will encounter someone who feels they have less of that exact thing than they want.
Someone who is begging life for it.
Exactly.
But explain how relativity bypasses the empty bank account, because 0 is 0.
Well, you do not need absolute abundance to provide relative value. You don't need a sprawling network of close friends to be the source of companionship.
Right.
You only need to locate the person whose immediate need is marginally greater than your own in that specific moment. If you are broke, the thought of giving away $100 is impossible.
Right, obviously.
But giving a single dollar or, paying for a stranger's $2 coffee when you only have $5 to your name, that fundamentally alters your status.
Oh, I see. In that microtransaction, you have stepped out of the role of the victim needing rescue and assumed the role of the benefactor providing relief.
Yes, it's a localized hack of your own psychology. You aren't curing global poverty. You are attacking your own neurological certainty that you are empty.
The moment you give away that single dollar, or the moment you, despite your own crippling loneliness, genuinely ask a cashier how their day is going and actually listen to their answer, you destroy the illusion of absolute lack.
You have proven with physical evidence that you still possess inventory.
Wow. And that requires a massive shift in how your brain filters reality, doesn't it?
It really does. We have to talk about the reticular activating system, or the RAS, in the brainstem.
Let's get into the neuroscience of it.
The brain is constantly bombarded with millions of bits of sensory data every single second. It would literally fry if it tried to process all of it consciously.
Right. There's just too much information in any given room.
So the RAS acts as a highly selective bouncer at the door of your consciousness. It only lets in information that aligns with your core beliefs and your current focus.
So if my core belief at 4 a.m. is I am completely broke and nobody cares about me, my RAS goes to work the next day, proving me right.
Exactly. It filters out the opportunity to connect with a coworker. It ignores the person struggling on the street.
And it hyper-focuses on the stack of bills on the counter and the couples laughing in the coffee shop, just confirming my bias.
Precisely. You become blind to the opportunities to give because your biological filter is entirely set to scarcity and threat.
But when you write that list and you set the deliberate intention to become the source of companionship or financial help tomorrow, you physically reprogram the RAS.
You give the bouncer new instructions.
I love that. Now, your brain starts actively scanning your environment for deficits in others. It looks for the person sitting alone. It looks for the person stressed at the checkout counter.
And because human suffering is ubiquitous, your brain immediately finds them. The opportunity to give was always there. You just lack the biological imperative to see it.
This sets up the most profound realization in the text. The ultimate magic formula, which Walsh summarizes in one sentence. He says, as you become the source of it in the life of another, what moves through you sticks to you.
What moves through you sticks to you. I mean, it is a brilliant encapsulation of the neurobiology and psychology of giving.
What's fascinating here is the physical reality of that metaphor. Think about a copper wire conducting electricity to light up a bulb.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
The wire cannot simply remain an inert, cold piece of metal while the electricity passes through it. The act of transmission requires the wire itself to become energized.
It heats up.
Yes, it heats up. It vibrates with the current. You cannot pass the energy along without experiencing the energy yourself.
And that maps perfectly onto human neurochemistry.
How so? Let's use companionship as the example again.
If you decide to be the source of companionship for someone else, if you sit down and offer them genuine empathy, active listening, and warmth, you cannot outsource that process.
Right.
Your own mirror neurons have to fire. Your own brain has to release oxytocin to generate that feeling of connection. Your nervous system is flooded with the exact same chemistry you are trying to provide to them.
Because the brain literally doesn't know the difference between generating love for someone else and receiving love from someone else. The system is bathed in the neurochemicals regardless.
Exactly. You cannot offer profound, clarifying wisdom to a friend navigating a crisis without that wisdom actively resonating within your own cognitive frameworks.
And you often inadvertently untangle your own problems in the process just by talking them through it.
Right. The act of giving the resource forces your body and mind to manufacture the resource. Therefore, what moves through you sticks to you.
And this leads to the massive emotional climax of the text. Walsh describes the absolute shock of this realization.
It's a powerful moment.
He writes, "You have a sudden realization that you already have that to give, you just didn't think that you did until somebody else needed it even more than you. And then you realize, oh my gosh, I had it here all along."
The tragedy and the beauty of that realization are just so deeply intertwined. The epiphany isn't some magical manifestation where the universe suddenly handed him what he wanted.
No, the universe didn't drop a bag of money on his porch.
Right. The epiphany is the destruction of an illusion. The realization is that the well was never dry. The resource was completely dormant, locked away inside of him because he was refusing to turn the tap.
We only thought we lacked wisdom or money or love because we were fiercely hoarding our intensely limited supply. We are terrified of running out, so we lock the vault.
But a vault doesn't generate interest.
Oh, that's good. A vault doesn't generate interest.
That is the defining illusion of scarcity. Scarcity is not a lack of resources. It is a byproduct of stagnation.
It's like, okay, we operate like someone standing in front of a cold fireplace, shivering, holding a massive pile of wood in our arms.
Right, and just screaming at the fireplace, "Give me heat, and then I will give you the wood."
And the laws of physics are just staring back at us saying, that is not the mechanism. You have the sequence completely backwards. Put the wood in, ignite it, and you will find yourself surrounded by the exact heat you are demanding.
And that is exactly why Walsh laments in the text, why didn't somebody tell me this at the beginning? Why did I have to wait till I was a half-century old?
He spent 50 years shivering in front of the fireplace, waiting for the universe to give him the heat first.
He wasted decades waiting for the right career break, the right financial windfall, the right partner to arrive and fix his life.
Completely unaware that he possessed the kindling all along.
Think about your own life right now, listening to this. Think about the specific area where you feel the most blocked, the most chronically deprived.
How much time have you spent waiting to receive the very thing you are fully capable of generating for someone else? The shift in perspective is staggering.
It changes everything about that 4 a.m. audit we started with. The entire premise of the panic just dissolves.
You are no longer lying there asking, why aren't I getting what I want? Why is my career stalling? Why am I so lonely? Because those questions position you as a passive victim of a withholding universe.
Instead, the question becomes an active mechanical one. Who in my immediate environment needs the exact thing I am desperate for, and how can I become the source of it for them tomorrow morning?
You transition from a victim demanding rescue to a creator generating reality. And in the very act of generating it, the lack instantly ceases to exist.
Let's pull all of these threads together, because this has been a massive paradigm shift.
Definitely. We started in a place of profound vulnerability. A 4 a.m. crisis born of intense, suffocating self-obsession and the absolute terror of scarcity. A person demanding to know why the whole ball of wax is failing.
And the escape velocity from that crisis requires 3 distinct, non-negotiable mechanisms that Walsh outlines.
First, you must dare to believe the absolute highest, most brilliant thought about your own potential, and accept it not as a comforting delusion, but as a biological truth waiting to be activated.
Second, You must take that newfound internal frequency and immediately project it outward, recognizing and elevating that exact same greatness in everyone you interact with.
Completely destroying the illusion that human success is a zero-sum game.
Right. And third, the ultimate behavioral test. You must clearly identify the exact thing you feel you lack the most and actively, physically become the source of that thing for someone else.
Proving to your own nervous system that what moves through you sticks to you.
It is a radical inversion of every survival instinct we are taught. It asks you to cure your own starvation by feeding someone else.
And the most compelling part of this entire framework is that it doesn't require blind faith. You don't have to take Neale Donald Walsch's word for it, and you don't have to take our word for it.
Not at all. The text offers a 48 to 72-hour window for proof, and that window begins right now.
Tonight, make the list. Identify the 3 things you are begging life for, and tomorrow, reprogram your RAS. Find the person who needs just a fraction of that thing more than you do and give it to them.
Become the source. See if the copper wire lights up.
It is an experiment with 0 downside and the potential for infinite upside.
Absolutely.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a thought to mull over, something that pushes the boundaries of this framework just a little bit further.
Let's hear it.
If every single person recognized the biological and psychological reality that what moves through you sticks to you, if we all simultaneously stopped shivering in front of the fireplace and started reverse engineering our deepest desires by actively giving them away to each other,
Would the entire human concept of lack simply evaporate?
it forces us to ask if scarcity is an objective reality of nature or just a man-made construct.
Is scarcity just a massive collective illusion, sustained entirely by our stubborn refusal to be the source?
Think about that the next time the 4 a.m. audit tries to convince you that you are empty. Until next time, thanks for diving deep with us.